Professor Mark Sherriff received this year's Computer Science and Engineering Undergraduate Education Award, and this award is not specifically for a field of expertise as it is. The committee evaluates his contribution as an educator, how he bonds with students, how he delivers education, as well as certainly his expertise in the field.
One thing that I really enjoy is being able to reach out to students who didn't necessarily know they were interested in being computing. In CS at UVA right now, over the past 5 years, we've gone from teaching under 2,000 in our program to now over 6,000. This total number of students that we teach per academic year. And my intro class went from 125 in the fall to over 600 in the fall. And that sort of growth is tremendously exciting. It's a challenge by all accounts, trying to figure out how to manage that sort of that course to make sure you're being inclusive. You're not falling into stereotype threat and other potential problems that we could have when teaching classes of that size. To try and get that many kids involved, really, it takes breaking some rules, I suppose. Your traditional lecture, of course, is sitting in a room of 200 or 300 for a class size and multiple sections of these. And so one thing that I like to do is to break their expectations. So for instance, one of my favorite things to do is to come in on a lecture day and put up on the board a lecture that's been encrypted. And you can't read any of it. And all I do is I go in and say, you had this as an assignment last night to write a decryption program. I have encrypted today's lecture, do it. And I stop talking and I let them see what happens. And when they decrypt the very first part of this lecture, the first thing it says is, pack up your bags and leave the room. And you're going to go to this other part of grounds and do something else over there. And the students just look at me funny because that's not typically what you would expect in a class that size. And they're going all over the place, all over grounds, using their code, taking their laptop with them, changing on the fly to do different decryptions. And what's key, I think, in this is I send them off to some of the most populated places outside at the university. And so all these other students say, what are you doing? What class is this? And it passes by word of mouth. And I'm the coordinator for our intro, but my upper level electives that I teach, right now I teach mobile app development, which is a lot of fun. We just got iOS devices along with our Android devices, so I get to teach both iOS and Android in one semester, and we have a lot of fun building apps for those. I also teach video game design, which is video game design is a passion of mine, personal hobby, and so being able to share that with students who are very interested in that. We have a student game developers club at UVA. I'm proud of what I've done to make the class exciting and fun. But we're seeing this all over the nation, that these intro classes, that our CS programs are just growing so rapidly. And so I think that another thing that I'm really excited about is being able to share with other educators ways that we can improve those classes, make them more exciting, be more inclusive, increase diversity, and just try and get computing out to as many people as possible. I'm weird. One of my favorite student evaluation comments I tend to get is something along the lines of, Sherriff is kind of nerdy, or Sherriff is, so I guess I kind of naturally inclined to do different things, but I come from a background in theater and from a background in video gaming, which is a weird combination. And so I really am excited about gamification. I'm excited about the ideas of bringing in activities into a lecture hall that apply some things that we've learned in the game space. Things like, let's not use grades. Let's use experience points as if it's some sort of role-playing game, and as you are completing assignments, you are earning experience points as opposed to trying to get a grade. At UVA, we have a very particular type of student, we say. The type of student that comes to UVA tends to be very entrepreneurial, very alpha, they are going to be the person that goes and changes the world. And that's great in many cases. And so these students come in with these grandiose ideas, and they want to go take them and immediately build them, and we have to kind of slow them down a bit and say, let's make sure we understand the foundations of what you're doing before you go off and do it. But we've seen so many students from UVA go off and do wonderful things at all of the major partners that we have in industry and other and graduate schools, and going on into teaching positions and going off and building their own companies and things like that. So the traditional model of the professor, as we all know, is teaching, research, and service, the three legs of the stool, and the person that is expert at all those things. And I definitely know people who are experts at all three of those things and are wonderful teachers, amazing researchers, and pull their weight in the department and nationally, and that is fantastic. But as we see this change as far as enrollments, and as we are growing, and as we want to have research-focused faculty be able to spend more time on the critical questions of our day, there is a place for having teaching-focused faculty, for faculty both at whatever level you want to call it. You want to call it a lecturer, you want to call it a teaching professor, whatever it might be, but folks that come in that have a background in education, that have a passion for teaching. Not that the other type of professor doesn't have a passion for it, but the difference is we have the time. And so one of the things that I feel really excited about, very blessed about at Virginia in particular, is that as an associate professor in the teaching track, in the general faculty, I can take on that responsibility so that my colleagues can focus on that world-changing research, and I can focus on world-changing students. The landscape of the computing profession is changing rapidly with new technologies, new ideas, new ways of doing things, basically all the time. And we are equipping our students for hopefully the technology of the right now, but also with the professional development tool set to go and learn the technologies and the techniques of tomorrow. And when you only have so many hours with these students, you can only try to get across some of that. And so I think that one of the big challenges that we're going to have in education over the next 5 to 10 years is evolving our curriculums to try and make sure that students come out with all of those professional skills that they need so that they can continue that learning process and then be even better contributors to society in the future.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Mark S. Sherriff.
His knowledge and ability and skill as an educator in any field of education, in this case engineering, is far surpassed from other candidates that we have reviewed.
I've always believed in the philosophy of accept the things you can't change, but change the things that you can. And particularly when you're looking, for me, when I'm looking at the enrollment growth, there are some things that I just have to accept. This is the way it's going to be. There are some ways of doing assessment right now that I don't have a better answer for, and I have to find the appropriate way to assess these students. But if there's something I can do to make the room, make that lecture hall not feel like it's 500 people, not feel like it's 300 people, make it feel like it's that more intimate environment where they're doing active learning, they're doing something exciting, then I want to do that. I want to make those changes, and I want to try and push that forward. To be completely honest, being recognized by your colleagues nationally is a tremendous honor. As educators, we want to introduce as many students as we can to computing. And this is a fantastic opportunity, and still it's a fantastic challenge, from everything from finding the right people to hire to something as mundane as finding classroom space around at our universities. When you're recognized by your department or by your own students, it feels great. It's wonderful, because those are the people that you work with day in and day out, and they see what you're doing, they see what it's like in the trenches. But then to have a national organization that you're part of and your peers around the country say, yes, we recognize what you are doing and the things that you're doing to improve the lives of students, I'm humbled. I thank you.